Hello and welcome to the first segment of the Evo training series, Installation and Wiring. This segment will show how to make all wiring and pneumatic connections needed when installing a Cyclomix Evo. Thank you, and let's get started.
In this segment, we're going to talk about how to wire in the Evo controller. When you get an Evo controller 2K unit, it's going to come with 3 cables. You're going to get the cable for the injection valve, which has the solenoid end on it. You're going to get a cable, 2 cables for the flow meters. You'll have a plug on each end, and then these wires are also numbered. They're kind of hard to see, but you got 1, 2, and 3.
We'll begin with the installation of power to the control box. We recommend using a qualified electrician following all electrical codes for your area, connecting with conduit or a qualified strain relief. They will need to penetrate the right side of the box close to the on-off switch for the installation. Do not use the cable holder at the bottom of the box. For demo purposes, we will not show the penetration on the side of the box, but will show where the wires will be landed. And now to wire the connection to the on-off switch. You will have a red lever that needs to be pulled down, and that will allow the switch to be removed. The hot connection, power, will go to terminal 4. The ground will now go to either the bus bar or you can use stud M6. Be sure to tighten with a wrench. We will now start with the installation of the low voltage cables from the flow meters and the injector valve. First, removing the cable holder block at the bottom, removing 4 screws to disassemble from the box. Once removed from the panel, the block must now be split to reach the grommets by removing 3 screws. For installing the flow meter cables, you will choose the grommet with the 2 largest holes. You have 2 holes that could be used, one for the A side and one for the B side. You want to make sure that you have enough slack in the cable inside the box to install to the terminals. Install the grommet back into the box, as so. Now you can use the grommet with one hole to install the injector cable. Again, leaving enough slack for the installation in the terminal. Once all the cables are installed into the grommet, you will use the 3 screws to attach both sides of the block. Now, after the block has been reassembled, you will now feed the wires through the port, confirming the length of the cables, and then use the 4 screws to tighten and assemble the block to the box. We will now show the termination of the cables to the control box. We do want to alert you to a technical bulletin that will be shipped with every Evo. It's a 3-page bulletin explaining how all the wiring is done. We will begin with the installation of the injector cable wires listed on the cable. We will start with the brown wire, which is your power signal, 24 volts, and that goes to terminal 11. This terminal is a screw tighten terminal. The common, which is the blue wire, will go to 0 volt on the terminal. And this is a push tab connection. The ground, green, and yellow striped cable goes to the PE block. And that also is a push tab connection. For installation of the 2 blue flow meter cables, they are labeled with a number and at the end a B1 and a B2. Flow meter A will be B1 and flow meter B will be B2. We'll start with flow meter A. The wires are labeled 1, 2, and 3 with a ground wire shield. Wire 1 is the 24 volts, and that will go to terminal 4, which is a screw lock connection. Wire 2, which is your 0 volts, will go to terminal 7, which is a push to lock connection. Wire 3, which is your signal input, will go to terminal 1, which is also a push lock connection. The shield will go to terminal PE, which is also a push lock connection. Now for flow meter B, wire 1, 24 volts, is connected to terminal 5. Which is a screw lock connection. Wire 2, your 0 volts, goes to terminal 8, which is a push lock connection. Wire 3, your signal input, goes to terminal 2, which is also a push to lock connection. The ground shield will also go to the PE block as a push to lock connection.
To get to the injector valve cable and solenoid, you have to remove this with a number 4 Allen wrench. And then you take your cable. Now this normally comes attached already, but just in case, or if you need to remove it, you would just slide it on, and it's just held on with a little clip. The flow meters, the other ends will come with the plugs on them already. So all you got to do is screw them onto the sensors on the A side and on the B. Now that you have everything wired, there are several ground points that you need to go to. First, you need to ground the control cabinet. Then on the mix manifold, they have a ground lug for the solenoid valve, or in the area of the solenoid valve. And then they have one on the fluid plate. It's important to ground all these. So we're going to talk about the air connections now. The inlet air is a 10 millimeter tubing, and so are these. The air coming in can be taken out and something different put in, but the factory supplies this 10 millimeter T, so you can put that in, and then you can connect your tubing and then loop it around. This is for your atomizer air. This is your airflow switch. So you can come in here and then come out. Now again, you can replace that fitting if you want to whatever MPS fitting if you'd like, or leave it with a tubing depending on your situation. But it is a 10 millimeter, and we do not supply the tubing with the unit, so you'll have to order that extra. Okay, the fluid panel also requires an air connection for the solenoid valve, for the injector, and also for the air chop. So we have a tubing fitting right here. Again, it's 10 millimeter. So you would take your 10 millimeter tubing and just connect it in here, and then the other side goes to your main air coming in. Again, we do not supply the 10 millimeter. You'll have to order it yourself. Okay, we're going to connect the air tubing now for the solenoids to fire the color change valves and some of the other valves. So we're going to start out at solenoid 1, or bank 1, with solenoid 1. We'll put the tubing in, and we're just going to run it behind the machine, and we're going to come down to the color stack, and we're going to go into the valve, which is going to be solvent. So we're going to use output 1 for solvent. Now that's going to be important to remember for later. So now we're going to go to solenoid number 2. I believe it's that one. And we're going to go to our CTM stack down there and go to color 1. And then we're going to go to solenoid 3 and go to color 3, or color 2, I'm sorry. This is only a 2-color unit. Okay, now we're going to go to output 4, and this is going to be our catalyst on this unit. Catalyst solvent, I'm sorry, for output 4. And we'll run it back down, and we'll run it over into our catalyst valve here, catalyst solvent. And again, it's important to remember what solenoid you have hooked up. Solenoid 5 is going to be just regular catalyst, because you'll need to name those outputs later. And we'll connect to that valve. Okay. Okay, now we have 3 more lines to hook up. One is the air chop, which is going to be output 7, or solenoid 7 here. And we'll run that air over to the air chop, which is this valve here. And then we have 2 more lines to run. We have the test valve for A and the test valve for B. So to connect that, we go to solenoid bank 3 and go to output 3. And then we'll route that over to the A side. And then output 4 is going to go for the catalyst side of our test valves. Run that right up there. And now we're complete.
This concludes wiring and tubing connections. Thank you.